Good afternoon, people of the world. I apologize if the microphone isn't very good. I tried plugging mine in, but it didn't work because it was $5 from Walmart. Anyways, I am here today to talk about my experience with goal setting. So, I am a musician. I play the piano, the guitar, the saxophone, cymbals, keyboards, and tons of percussion instruments. And I have a flute. It belonged to my sister, and I've always wanted to learn how to play it. I thought it would be so cool and so interesting, and this finally gave me the perfect opportunity to go for it. So I think I wrote in my log, but the most difficult part for me was getting the technique. As I kept working, it was working on my embouchure, which is the shape your mouth makes when you play it. So anytime you play a wind instrument, you have an embouchure. So like a brass one, it's kind of like a kissy face. So you do that if you're gonna play the trumpet, tuba, French horn, whatever. And then the saxophone one is a little bit different, harder to recreate without a saxophone here. The flute one, pain in the butt. Anyways, most of the fingerings, so how you're able to get the notes out, are similar enough to saxophone that I don't have a whole lot of issues playing them, but some of those fingerings are rough. Okay, I'm actually going to start out. I'll play you a little bit of a song. If it's really bad, that's okay. I started a week ago. Alright, here's my flute. It's a Yamaha student model. Nothing particularly exciting. I don't know how much of that you can hear, but I like it. So this is the mouthpiece area, and for the most part the sound comes from playing across, not in. Like when you play a saxophone, you blow into it, not across it. The flute is the only one that does that. So give it a C major scale. Shoot, let me think. I think good start, at least. Okay, so I'm gonna try and play this again. I'm gonna be looking off screen where my music is. I'm gonna be looking off screen because that's where my music is. So hang tight. honestly will work out for me. So I think not so bad. Could have been worse. So I picked 2 strategies on emotional resilience that were very helpful for me, I think. So one of them was staying optimistic, and personally for me, staying optimistic was just like pushing through. Like, it's a hard instrument, everybody has a hard time with it, but just knowing that I can keep going and that it's okay, and that if I just keep sticking with it, it will get better eventually. I read about being optimistic in a psychology journal, and it says being optimistic can like change the way your brain works, and it positively affects your mental and physical well-being. I'm just going to read off the screen here. It says, there's evidence that optimism can confer benefits on physical health. For instance, a study on patients undergoing coronary artery bypass surgery indicated that those with higher optimism levels had a better recovery outcomes. So just this one thing on heart surgery, it shows that when you believe something's going to be okay, when you believe something's going to be good, usually it does turn out better, including with physical recovery, because your brain and your body and your feelings and all your emotions are so in tune. They work together, and when you keep your brain happy, optimistic, and positive, it honestly will just help do things better for you. Another thing this paper talks about is coping with stress. And I know stress can be really hard, and it can really, really negatively impact your life. It can make you have less of an appetite, and it can just honestly make you not fun to be around, upset, sad, angry. But optimists deal with stress better than pessimists. So again, I'm going to just read off of here. Never mind. So optimists often have better coping strategies when something stressful comes their way. Say bills. We'll just go with bills. Bills are expensive and they cause a lot of stress for everybody. But an optimist might say, well, that's okay. What can we do instead? What can we do to help pay the bills? Do a bake sale, do something to raise money, rather than a pessimist who's just going to be mad and who's going to be upset and who's just going to pay it the normal way. Optimism really causes a lot of good things to happen in your life, and it's honestly just so good for your physical and mental well-being. The easiest way to implement optimism in your life, seems kind of silly to say, but to just stay positive. When things aren't going your way, if you just stay happy and you realize that your now is not your forever. Quote from a John Green book, Turtles All the Way Down, best book ever. Your now is not for your forever. Then optimism can help you move on. Optimism can help you stay strong, and it can help you stay so resilient. So the next thing I kind of used to help with my success at playing the flute was setting goals. My goal was to be able to somewhat play a song, to, for the most part, get the fingerings right, and just try and push through. So my goal, let me think about the SMART goals. SMART goals, it was attainable. I was able to actually fully get through the song, and it was not that bad, as you might have heard. If it was that bad, I'm sorry. But I found an article written by 2 college professors, and it's mostly on elementary school and how setting goals helps elementary school students. At heart, we're all children, honestly, and I think children. I'm like 18. But the things that help elementary schoolers can oftentimes help adults. When you just simplify your life down to that of like an 8-year-old, it makes your life seem so much easier. One thing this article says is, in individualized group structures, rewards are based on self-improvement and progress rather than social comparison. This encourages students to compare their current performance with their past achievements, fostering a sense of personal growth and motivation to improve over time. So with these goal-setting strategies, these elementary schoolers are able to compare themselves only to themselves. If you are setting goals for yourself, then you can't compare yourself to what others have achieved and what others have done. You can only compare yourself to what you have done and what you will continue to do and what you have learned through setting all of these goals. And setting these goals, like it said, foster a sense of personal growth and motivation to improve over time. And I think that's honestly helped me a lot, was setting goals and realizing I'm not going to be perfect and I'm not like everybody else, but as long as I keep improving for me, then that's okay. And it helped me, I think, to stay resilient throughout this very long week of trying to learn a new skill. Goals are really taught everywhere. They're taught in school. For me, they were taught in church with my family and everything. If you can hear that, it's not the wind, it's the ghost. Okay, so the easiest way to set a goal is to use the outline of SMART goal. Now, I never remember what it is, so I'm just gonna read the little acronym. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. So, again, setting goals can really, really help you be able to stay resilient, to care only for yourself, and only for you to keep moving forward, like The Robinsons. Best movie ever. But again, it worked for me. Setting that SMART goal, it was specific. I want to be able to play a song. Measurable, can I play the song or not? Attainable, yes, it was attainable because I ended up doing it. It was relevant to the project and it was time-based. I had a week to do it, a week, 5 days, whatever, and I ended up being able to do it. And I think because I set a goal that was attainable and it was measurable and all of these things, it helped me to be resilient, and I felt like this goal helped me grow emotionally too. Alright, I wrote my journal and my log down and my 2 to 3 paragraphs. I'm just gonna read them. Sorry, you're just gonna have to deal with me not looking. February 21st. Today I took my flute out of its case for the first time in probably 2.5 years. I focused mostly on the embouchure and making a sound. Flute embouchure is so hard, but I've just been trying to push through. Tried to make my embouchure small and to make my sound as smooth as possible. I was able to play a C major scale with only minor difficulty. February 22nd. Today was more of the same thing, working on my embouchure and making it as smooth as possible. The biggest challenge for me going from saxophone to flute is the fingerings. For the most part, the fingerings are the same except for B, C, D, and E flat. The rest of the fingerings are pretty easy. I worked on playing and switching from B to C for the majority of today. February 23rd. Every day I continue to work on my embouchure. My sound when I play is incredibly airy, so I asked my band director for tips. He told me to really focus my airstream and keep a tight embouchure. I started to get super frustrated, but I reminded myself that I'm still new to the flute and it's okay that I'm not perfect. I also continued to work on my fingerings. February 24th. Today I started to look at sheet music to see if I could play it. The biggest issue for me was mostly still switching fingerings, especially B to C. Another big issue for me is my breathing. Flute takes so much air to be able to play, so I can barely get through 2 measures before I have to stop to take a giant breath. The only way to fix this is to just keep trying. My air used to be a big problem for me on saxophone, but for the most part it just took tons of practice. February 25th, the final day, I talked to my band director more about having a consistent and good tone. He told me to work on long tone exercises, holding a note for a long period of time and focusing on embouchure, good tone, and being in tune. I worked on my long tones for a while and went back to sheet music. Working on those long tones definitely helped me. It especially helped me to hear pitches better and to stay in tune better. Overall, my flute playing is still incredibly mediocre at best. I have noticed a lot of improvement even though I've only been actively practicing for just under a week. I hope to keep practicing it and eventually be at an intermediate level. And these are my 2 paragraphs on how I think this helped me to be resilient. And these are my 3 paragraphs on how this helped me to be resilient. Learning a new instrument is hard for anybody. Learning a new instrument is hard for anyone, but sometimes it feels even harder for an experienced musician. I'm used to being good at my instrument, so taking on the challenge of a new instrument was incredibly difficult for me. Not being immediately good tested my patience. This experience of learning a new instrument strengthened my emotional resilience. Throughout my experience of picking up the flute and making an effort to really learn how to play it, I became extremely frustrated. I contemplated quitting because I felt I could never play the flute well and I should just choose a different hobby for my project. However, I pushed through and I grew more than I ever thought possible. I'm now able to play simple songs decently, which I never thought I could do. Doing this project has shown me that I am resilient and that I can do anything I put my mind to. Learning a new instrument is hard, but with practice, hard work, and perseverance comes growth. If I continue to work on the flute, I know I will get better. I think this will help me to be resilient in the future because I can remind myself of what I was able to accomplish in just a week. I know that I can be resilient, and if I'm resilient, I can do anything I can put my mind to.